Hello and welcome to the School of Solid Foundation. My name is Bridget and today we are treating Lesson 8. Lesson 8 talks about the gifts of the Spirit. So we've treated the Holy Spirit, we've treated baptism of the Holy Spirit. Now we would like to treat the gifts of the Spirit, the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Now, the gifts of the Spirit are given to profit the whole church and to glorify Christ as Lord. Now, these gifts are in three categories, okay? The first category is the gift of utterance. Now, under the gift of utterance, we have prophecy, diverse kinds of tongues, interpretation of tongues. Okay, so the gifts are in three categories. The first category is the gift of utterance. Now, under the first category, we have prophecy, diverse kinds of tongues, interpretation of tongues. Okay, now the second category is the power gifts. Under the power gifts, we have the gifts of faith, the working of miracles, the gifts of healings. The third category is the gift of revelation, that is the word of knowledge, the word of wisdom, and the discerning of spirits. Let's not make this mistake. The gifts of the Spirit are categorized into three, and that these three are the gifts, the various gifts. So the first category is the gift of utterance, which has the prophecy, diverse kinds of tongues, interpretation of tongues. The power gift is the second category, which has the gift of faith, the working of miracles, and the gift of healings. Now, the third category is the gift of revelation, which has the word of knowledge, the word of wisdom, and the discerning of spirits. Now, let's try and take each gift one by one. Now, prophecy. Prophecy is for edification, exhortation, and comfort. 1 Corinthians 14 verse 3. And every believer can exercise this gift. So believers are thereby encouraged to desire to prophesy. 1 Corinthians 14 verse 1. Now, the gift of tongues, that is the diverse kinds of tongues. It is a supernatural utterance by the Holy Spirit in language never learned by the speaker, nor necessarily understood by the hearer. Okay, so you don't need to understand the tongues you are speaking for you to know that it is really from God. Okay, it is a supernatural utterance. It's only God who understands you. You speak mysteries when you speak in diverse kinds of tongues. Now, the interpretation of tongues, it is the spiritual revelation by the Spirit of the meaning of an utterance in other tongues. Okay, so you can actually pray for the gift of the interpretation. It makes the gift of tongues relevant to hearers in the church. Now, the power gifts, okay. The first one is the gift of faith. Now, this gift is given to a believer, okay, so that he can receive miracles. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Okay, what's Mark 11:24? Whatsoever things ye desire, if ye believe, ye shall have them. Okay, so the gift of faith is given to you so that you can receive miracles. All right. Now, the gift of faith is different from the gift of working miracles. Now, the gift of working miracles is a gift that enables you to work out something supernatural that overrules the ordinary course of nature. Example, Jesus turning water into wine. That is a major miracle. Jesus calming the storm is a major miracle. Okay. When the Red Sea was divided, that was a miracle. All right. Now, the gift of healing. The gift of healing is to deliver the sick and destroy the works of the devil in the human body. Jesus operated in the ministry of healings. You can also operate in the ministry of healing. Now, the gift of revelation. That the first is the gift of the word of knowledge. Now, the word of knowledge is a supernatural revelation by the Holy Spirit of certain facts of God. Okay, it's just a portion of the knowledge that God has, which he feels is relevant, which he feels you need to know about. And sometimes it's manifested through visions, okay, trances and all of that. All right, sometimes it's also manifest through inward revelation. Example, Jesus at the well of the Samaritan woman. The word of wisdom. The word of wisdom is different from the word of knowledge. The word of wisdom is the supernatural revelation of the Spirit of God concerning the divine purpose in the mind and will of God. It often operates together with the word of knowledge, though they are different. Example, Agabus spoke about the persecution of Paul in Acts 21:10-11. That is, okay, a word of wisdom. God giving Ananias a vision about Paul is a word of knowledge. The word of wisdom is also used to assume God's protection during crisis. Acts 27:23-24 gives us a better understanding. And finally, the gift of discerning of spirits. This gives insight into the spirit world. Okay, example, Moses saw the similitude of Jesus in Exodus 33:20-23, and some people saw the resurrected Christ. Okay, Paul was able to discern the presence of an evil spirit in Acts chapter 16, verse 16-18. Okay, so all of these are the various gifts that we have: the gifts of prophecy, the gifts of tongues, the gifts, working of miracles, the ministry of healings, and all of that. All these gifts are categorized into three. Okay, the gift of utterance, the power gift, and the gift of revelation. Okay, so this brings us to the end of today's lesson, lesson 8. I hope you go and read over and understand it better. And I pray the Holy Spirit gives you a better understanding of His word. Thank you.